Okay, so hello, welcome everyone, and welcome to this iteration of critical appraisal of research methods and analysis, which is a course that you have enrolled in, and we have, when you're watching this recording, you have probably taken part to in the orientation session. So we won't go through those things in this video, but we can dive straight in to the subject at hand. So first of all, our first topic is going to be around the replication crisis, and from that on we will to other terrains. So let's get started with section 1. So this is Richard Feynman, who is a famous physicist who is quoted here in saying that when he talks about integrity and research integrity, he says that I'm talking about the specific extra type of integrity that is beyond not lying, but bending over backwards to show that you're maybe wrong, that you ought to be have when acting as a scientist. And this is quite an interesting statement, because this is not how people normally think about things. So normally when people seek evidence, for example, what they do is they usually try to find evidence that they are right, and collect this corroborating pieces of the puzzle that would actually prove them right. But here he is saying that as a scientist, then your job is actually to try and prove that you're wrong. And only by not being able to prove that you're wrong, you start realizing these bits where you might actually be correct. We will return to this bit quite a lot in this piece, but maybe one of the key takeaways here is that it may seem very unintuitive to think that you should prove yourself wrong, but on the other hand, and it might seem that it's not a very smart thing to do. But on the other hand, when you consider the alternative might be that there is someone else who will prove that you're wrong. And usually it works that way, but often it's easier to correct your mistakes when you realize you're wrong than have someone else point this to you. So we're going to talk about something called the crisis of confidence in social sciences, and so I'm going to briefly describe this like one take on how this whole situation unfolded, and I'm going to talk this through from the perspective of social psychology. In particular, because that is the field I know the best. So mostly it's the current wave of this awareness of this crisis of confidence came true in the beginning of 2010s. Or the late 2000s, when there was this sort of grand old man, a very, very famous researcher in social psychology, who claimed to have found that you can actually know the future. And so he made this, he wrote this paper and did a lot of research that showed that based on all the sort of rules of science or social psychological publishing, he was able to show that this precognition effect is real. Now, this sort of brought to the forefront the discussion of wait, is it true that all of physics is actually wrong? And there is this social psychologist who has proven all of our known physics about the arrow of time and so forth wrong. So there was, as expected, there was a lot of um, let's say heated discussion around this paper. And one of the key facets of this discussion was that when people tried to replicate, to do all over again the same research using the same methods and so forth, other researchers were not able to do this replication of the results of precognition. And most importantly, when these people who were unable to replicate these results, when they tried to publish their results, saying that we're not able to replicate these results, they sent their research to the flagship journal of social psychology, where the original study was published. But the response was that, hey, we have a policy that we don't publish replications. They're not really interested. So people started thinking, well, if all the times where you can find an effect of precognition or extrasensory perception, if all those times where you actually are able to show that with whatever methods you have, if those things get published, but all of those times when you're not able to do it, those results don't get published. So what is our literature going to look like as a result? And the obvious answer is that we're going to see a lot of these, hey, we found this thing, and hey, we found that thing, and so forth, and there won't be any sort of because it's often thought that science is that it's self-correcting. But there won't be a mechanism for self-correction if these corrections are not published in the journals. This was obviously a sort of a big problem, but it sort of only peeled away the surface layer, which behind in front of something that had been going on for a very long time. So, and we will talk about these things at length during this section. But what this prompted was that there started to become a lot of these multi-team collaborations, where a lot of researchers around the world, they collaborated to try and replicate these different studies. And so there was, of course, a lot of discussion around this, and these replication projects, they are named, if you Google many labs replication projects, you can find many of the results. But the most important thing is that a lot of conversation ensued, and people really became interested in what is this business about replicability. So the Wikipedia entry on replication crisis is quite a decent introduction. And so this was also interesting that Nature, the journal, did a survey on different researchers in different fields, and there was about 90% of the researchers surveyed who thought that there is a crisis of some sorts, whatever slight crisis might mean. But these were not psychologists. These were chemists, biologists, engineers, the natural science people mostly. And there was also a category called other for where psychologists and social psychologists went in. But this sort of made people realize that, hey, this is, first of all, this is not a problem of social psychological research, not even a problem of social science, but something that actually spans through across different disciplines.